Hey there guys, as promised, I'm making a quick screencast to walk through working with Photoshop for this first assignment. So I'm logged into the website, or I'm not even logged in, I'm just at the website itself, emilioi.com/gbc9630. I'm coming down here and I'm clicking on Lecture 1 Assignment 1 Pack. This is going to download a zip file, and I'm going to put it right on my desktop. So I've already downloaded it, and here we go, here it is. There's 4 files in here. Let me walk you through each one. The first one is for those of you that have a really old version of Photoshop, CS2 or before. You should be able to start with this template if you'd like. Then I've got a PSD, a Photoshop document, for those of you using CS3 or beyond. You can open this up, use it as a starter pack. Now, I don't recommend using this template if you aren't comfortable in Photoshop just yet. If you are comfortable in Photoshop, start with the template. It'll make everything look nice and polished. Otherwise, we'll do this process from scratch. So don't worry about the template for assignment 1 for those of you that are still kind of new to Photoshop, still beginners. Next, I've got the actual assignment, and I'll read over that with you in a second. And then I've got an HTML5 tag reference sheet. Open it up, view it, you're going to see a bunch of different tags like we reviewed in class today. So I'm going to go ahead, get started, open Photoshop up. So I've opened Photoshop up, here we go, and you're going to notice this window down here that's hovering. I'm moving it around. It's going to record every time I do a shortcut key. If you're on a Macintosh computer, when I hit Control, you should be hitting Command. Most other shortcuts in Photoshop will map out for you. So let's get started, look at the assignment. Here it is. What I want you to do is go online, take a screenshot of a web page you find that fits each of the layout types we discussed in class. Single image, F pattern, Z pattern, split pattern. Then we're going to create some overlays in Photoshop. Once we grab that screenshot, we'll use maybe arrows with our brush tool. Then we'll do an overlay with some boxes. We'll fill them up, and then we'll put some text on top of it. So let's get started. I'm going to do an F pattern version for now. We know that F pattern is going to be Google, Yahoo, lots of data listed, IMDb, Wikipedia, those type of web pages. So I've gone ahead and I've typed Zach Galifianakis here on my PC. Remember, I'm on a Windows machine. On a Windows machine, to do a little snippet, a screen capture if you like, I'm going to open what we call the snipping tool. So I'll go into my start menu and type snipping, open up this thing called snipping tool. If you have Windows 7 or 8, you're going to see this as well. Open the snipping tool. I'm going to go ahead and click new. Once I hit new, I've got this little kind of cursor, this kind of crosshair thing. I'm going to click and hold. I'm going to drag, and that's going to copy this whole image to my clipboard, just like Control-C with text. Once I let go of this, it's going to do a little snip. I can save it, file save as a JPEG if I want, or I can copy it to my clipboard. So I hit edit, copy, it's on my clipboard. Let's jump back into Photoshop. First thing you want to do is make sure it's open. Your workspace is kind of reset. We're going to hit Window, Workspace, make sure we're on Essentials. Hit Essentials and you'll see something looking like this. You'll have some tools on the left hand side, a menu at the top, and on the right hand side you're going to have the Layers panel. This Layers panel is important, and we'll get into that in a minute. Let's go ahead and create our first new Photoshop document. You can hit Control-N to do this, or Command-N. I'm going to go up here to the File menu and hit New. Now we get a prompt. You're going to notice Photoshop knows there's something on the clipboard. It says let's make a new document, and I'll call this F pattern. Preset is going to be clipboard. Photoshop knows that on the clipboard there's something that I've grabbed that's 1900 pixels by 1400 pixels. I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to have a blank white document. make sure your layers panel over here on the right hand side is active. You can do this by going to Window, Layer to toggle it off, or Window, Layers to toggle it on. And you can see it appear here. Right now it's just got a background layer. Layers act kind of like papers on top of each other. If you have a transparent layer, you can see beneath it to the next layer. If you've got a layer that's full of an image, pixel data, it will cover up anything beneath it. You'll see this as we go through. So on our clipboard, we've got that file. I'm going to go ahead and hit Edit, Paste, or Control V. And this is going to paste that image file that we grabbed from the snippet tool onto our layer. So I'll hit Edit, Paste here. And you see there's a new layer. It's called Layer 1. I can hover over it with my cursor, double click. So I'm double clicking, I'll do that again. I'm double clicking on the text, and I'm going to call this Screenshot. And we can see that layer. So now we've got our snipping tool. We went to the clipboard. I'll just review again. We got it on the clipboard by doing Control Paste. We hit File New to make a new document. It's the exact same size as our clipboard image. We've pasted it. It made a new layer. We called it Screenshot. If you're on a Macintosh computer, you do not have the snipping tool, check out the slides. In here, I tell you how to capture, how to do a print screen, how to capture the screen. So Command-Shift-3 captures the whole screen. If you want something like the snipping tool, like I just did on Windows, you can do Command-Shift-4. If you want a specific window, you can do Command-Shift-4 and space, and it'll get a specific window. This will save a screenshot onto your desktop. Once you have it on your desktop, you can then open it in Photoshop. So once you've opened it in Photoshop, if you're on a Mac, or you've pasted it in and you're on a PC, you're going to have these layers. So the first thing I want you to do in the assignment is draw some arrows representing F pattern, Z pattern, single image, whatever it might be. So for this one, it's an F pattern. We're going to create a new layer, and we do this by coming down to the Layers panel and looking at the bottom right. You'll see it looks like a little post-it note with its with a little page curl on it. It says Create New Layer. I'm going to click that once. It's going to create what we call a transparent layer. There's no pixel information on here. So from here, we're going to go to the Tools menu and hit Brush Tool. Hit B as a shortcut, or just click on the brush. If you don't see the tools, you can make sure you see them by going Window, Tools. So Window Tools hides it, Windows Tools shows it again, and we hit the brush. If you click and hold on this brush area, you see you can get pencil, brush, color replacement, or mixer brush. We want to make sure we have brush tool selected. So you might see pencil, you want to make sure you're at brush. Great. Now what we're going to do is draw our arrows. You can see up here where I'm clicking, we can create a brush that's a big brush, huge circle, a small brush, small circle. We want maybe a brush that's about 25 pixels, and we want to set the hardness to 100%. Just bear with me, 100% is what we want here. We click out of this, and before I click anywhere on the screen, I want to just tell you guys, if you don't see the little circle representing your brush, you might have caps lock on. So if I hit caps lock, I see a kind of that target icon in my mouse. If I have caps lock off, I see the size of the brush. So right now, I'm on a transparent layer. I select it. So you can select your layers by clicking here. I select layer 1, my transparent layer. I'm just going to call this F pattern layout. I've got my brush selected. Now I'm going to double click on my color swatch area. You can see here it says set foreground color. Double click on here and it's going to give me a color picker. I'm going to say let's do this in red. So I want a red paintbrush. I've got red chosen. I hit OK. Make sure I'm on my F pattern layout layer. And now I can just draw. So I'm going to click and draw a line with an arrow, and then I'll draw a line here with an arrow, as straight as I can draw just by clicking and holding. Now if you want to draw a completely straight line, hold down the Shift key, just hold down Shift, and while Shift is being held, drag your cursor across. It'll give you a nice straight line. Oh, let's go back there and undo that. Now to undo, I just hit Control Z. So hold Shift down, scroll over, hold Shift, click with my left mouse. Let's do it again. Hold Shift, click with my left mouse button, move over, let go of Shift, let go of my mouse button, and I'll just do this over and over. Every time that you're seeing me go from one to the other, where it ran diagonally, I just forgot to let go of Shift as I'm doing this. So I'm holding Shift, going across, letting go of everything. Coming down here, clicking with my left mouse button, hold Shift, let go of my left mouse button, let go of Shift, clicking down here with my left mouse button, holding Shift. And there we go. That's our F pattern. That's the basic layout. I can make these look like arrows. I'm going to do the same over here. And you can even have that Shift go top to bottom. So I'm going to click at the top here with my mouse, left click, hold down Shift, drag my mouse down, and you get that nice vertical line. You can see here in your layers panel that there's a thumbnail that represents, you can see a little bit of red in there. That's showing a little thumbnail version of what the overall screen is showing us. We're done that first part, F pattern layout, it's done, it's ready to go. What I want to do now is hide that. I want to keep it, but I want to hide it, and this is the beauty of Photoshop layers. You see this little eyeball looking icon here beside your thumbnail? I can click it off, and it looks like everything disappeared, but it's really still there. Off and on, off and on. So I'm toggling the visibility. Gonna turn it off. Click and make a new layer. Again, we do that by coming down here and hitting the post-it note, create a new layer. I'm gonna call this block silhouette. So for this next part of the exercise, I want you to block out that kind of footprint, that silhouette of the website itself. We're going to do this with the marquee tool and the paint bucket fill. To get the marquee tool, you can click M on your keyboard or come up here, hold if you want, and make sure you've got a rectangle. So click, we want to make sure we have our rectangular marquee selected. We don't want it to be a circle, we want it to be a rectangle. Again, make sure caps lock is off. You're going to see the crosshairs. And what we're going to do is try and outline the different areas. So say we've got this first area here on the left hand side. I'm going to click at the top left corner of where I want my rectangle to begin, and I'll drag it all the way down here and let go. I've selected a bunch of nothing. It's a bunch of transparent pixels on my block silhouette layer. Remember, the block silhouette layer is selected at this point. I'm going to now click into my paint bucket tool. Here we go, it's G on the keyboard. I can click, I don't want gradient, I don't want 3D, I want paint bucket. Go back to my foreground color, double click, and let's say I pick blue for this. Here's a nice blue, I'll hit OK. Now if I click outside this marquee tool, oh, I got a missed call. If I click outside this marquee tool, nothing's going to happen, I'm clicking around it. When I click inside, we're going to see that it's been selected. It's kind of highlighted everything. So that's a color block right there. That's the silhouette. I want to do the same thing by clicking marquee again. And I'm going to select, I think, this I know is an image block, so I'll click here. Drag from top left to bottom right. Hit my paint bucket tool. Fill it up. Get my marquee tool again. And I'll say, I'll cover this area. Top left to right, grab my paint bucket tool, again making sure blue is the color of choice, fill it up. And there we go, we've got 3 blocks. Here's a basic silhouette of this F pattern website. Now, the bad part about this is I can't see what's underneath it. We know with layers, we haven't changed the screenshot layer. It's still there, but when the block silhouette is over it, it's covering everything up. So in Photoshop, you can actually create a transparency on this layer. I'm going to click onto block silhouette, and you'll notice opacity up here. I've got a little slider. If I click into the slider, I'll go 50% opacity. And you can see that I can see beneath the layer itself with the visibility set like that. So now what we did is we used the marquee tool, we selected an area, filled it with the paint bucket tool, then we set our opacity down to 50%. So now we've done part 2 of this exercise. The next thing we've got to do is use our text tool to kind of denote where the HTML tags are, and that'll be our final step. Okay, so like I said, for our final step, we just want to start writing some tags here. We're going to use a new tool, it's the text tool. And for this, we don't need to create a layer because our text tool will create a new layer every time we type. So first thing we're going to do is hit this T area on the toolbar. You can also hit T on your keyboard, that's going to work too. Horizontal type tool. We're going to click it, and you'll see at the top it brings up a font picker area. So I'm going to pick Arial. Arial regular's fine. And I get to pick the color that I want. Let's pick for this a nice orange, bright orange. I'm going to hit OK. So again, hit T on the tools menu. You can just click the horizontal type. You click and hold, you see you can pick these different options. You want horizontal type tool. We're going to pick Arial. We'll actually make this probably about 18 points. I think that's a good size for this. And over here we double click, we can pick our foreground color. I picked orange for this, hit OK. With the type tool selected, we can click anywhere and literally just start typing. So I'll say H2, because I think this one's an H2. When I'm done typing, I can hit the check mark, commit current edits, and that's done. I've now got my type. It looks a little small to me, so I'm going to make sure my text tool is selected again, hover over it. We'll see it selected in the layers panel. You can see it created this new layer on the right hand side. So I'll hover over my text, double click, and now I can edit it. So I'm going to bring it up to 48 pixels. I think that's a little bit more visible. I'll select it all again. I'll hit bold. Maybe I'll do Arial black. You might not actually have these features on your machine depending on your font. You might just have Arial regular or Times New Roman regular. If you've got a bold or black version, use it. It's going to be heavier, easier to see on the eyes. When I've made these changes, I hit the check mark, and great, there you go. But hold on a second, maybe it's not in the right place. I want to move it around. Let's move this text around. I hit on the layers panel, I select my H2 again. Now I'm going to go to the tools menu, click on the arrow. This is called the move tool. You can hit V on the keyboard to select it. So I've got my move tool selected by clicking it. You can see if you click and hold on the move tool, it's the only option. It's your arrow. So I have the layer that I want to move around selected, and I've got the arrow selected. I can now just click on my text and move it around. So maybe I want it to be there. Now you're going to notice with the arrow tool, if I have my block silhouette layer selected and have the arrow tool selected, I'm now moving around my block layer. So I'll put the block layer back in place. Say there's 4 or 5 H2s on this page. I want to quickly duplicate this layer. There's an easy way to do that. You can hit Control J or Command J, and you're going to see I just created a new layer. I've got it selected, make sure my arrow move tool selected, and I'll just drag down, and there we go. Another way to create and duplicate that layer is to grab it in the layers panel, so click and hold, and bring it down to that post-it note. Let go of it when you're on the post-it note, and again you've created another copy. You can go ahead and click it. I personally like Control J or Command J to do this. There's a few other ways to do this, but for now I think that's a lot for you to take in. So there we go, there's a bunch of H2s. Now I know there's some anchors in here and some paragraphs, So what I'm going to do is take this layer, duplicate it again, and I'll drag it over here because I know these are images. I'll now take my text tool by clicking the T or hitting T on my keyboard, double clicking, and I'm going to double click on the layer it's selected. I'm going to say this is an image tag. There we go. I commit my changes by coming up here to the top toolbar, commit current edits, hit the check mark. That's done. I've now got my image tag. I don't think, oh yeah, there are some other images. So let me duplicate this again. I'll drag it. Don't want my text tool right now, I want my move tool. And I'll move it down here. There's an image. Duplicate this again. And here we go. This is probably, let's say it's an H3. H3. There we go. So if you're new to Photoshop, this is one way to get all your layers together. To keep this clean, you're going to have a lot of tags. I'm going to show you how to group your layers. So I could just, if I want to get rid of all the text and not show it, I have to hit each one of these and click through visibility. If I want to create what I call a group of layers, all I have to do is come back to the layers panel, click on whatever layer I want, hold shift, and do a multi-select from the top to the bottom to the layers that I want to have selected. Then I'm going to hit this group icon. It looks like a little folder on the bottom of the layer. Create a new group. Create a new group. I will multi-select all of these layers and drag them into the group. Oh, they are in the group, like it just did. I'll drag them into the group, and now they're in the group. I'll double-click on the group to call it text overlay. And now you can see I can toggle that so it doesn't look as messy. By hitting this arrow, I can have them appear or disappear. So there's a few other things to add here. We can do the search input box as a form. You can add the anchor tags whenever you see a link. There's a lot of content you can still do with your text overlay, but here's a few tools that'll help you work on your Photoshop. Couple other things to look at quickly. If you want to delete a layer, you select it and hit trash. You want to confirm, do you want to delete the layer block silhouette? I'm going to hit yes, and it's gone. If I want to undo that, I just hit Control Z. Control Z will undo. Now Photoshop has this great tool, in case I want to delete block silhouette or duplicate it and I did something wrong and I delete two layers and then I delete another layer and everything's gone haywire. I want to do more than just go back once, hitting Control Z. I can click here onto Window and hit History.